is Joe and Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and once again, it's time for answering your guys' questions. So, what we're going to do today is answer your questions, and I have a whole bunch of them listed out here. And if you do want to ask me a question, the best place to get it to me is actually on my YouTube comments page or over the YouTube email system. If you do post a question below the video, oftentimes I will read them, but don't have the opportunity to answer each and every one because I am so busy with trying to keep my backyard garden growing. As you can see, it's behind me and it looks beautiful. I have all kinds of stuff growing, and be sure to stay tuned for an upcoming update garden tour of what I'm growing currently, which is actually a lot of stuff. Easily being able to pick my greens for my salad, my juices, and my blended smoothies every day with no problem. Just with half my backyard covered, and pretty soon we'll be converting the other half. So stay tuned for that episode as well. In any case, let's get into today's questions. First question is Ramure1. John, can I use pressure-treated lumber to build a raised bed garden if I line it with heavy-duty black plastic so no dirt is touching the wood? Thanks. All right, you can do anything you want. Now, would John use pressure-treated lumber to build his raised bed garden even with plastic on the inside? I would absolutely not use pressure-treated lumber, and don't encourage anyone to use pressure-treated lumber either. Before I even use pressure-treated lumber, I would actually use a plastic-style lumber, or even better yet, just use some landscaping blocks or some concrete cinder blocks, to build a raised bed. Before even using pressure-treated lumber, I would just use standard lumber that I treated with a non-toxic stain. And stay tuned for another episode on, me using some non-toxic staining to, seal some of the container gardens or pots, wooden containers that I have. And let's see, the heavy-duty black plastic, what's the problem with that? That's going to break down over time, and then you're just going to have plastic fragments all mixed in with your soil. If you did really still want to do that, I'd recommend buying like a rubber pond liner, not the vinyl pond liners, which are horrible, but the rubber pond liner to do that. But those pond liners are heavy-duty expensive because I looked into all this way back when, before I built my raised beds, and I chose to build my raised beds out of cedar wood, also using redwood, and that's the wood that I would recommend to you guys out there, and just do the best you can. Next question is from the Red Liga 1. John, you are the garden man. I appreciate your videos, humor, candor, and incredible info, including juicing comparisons. My question is, it looks like your personal raised beds are at least 3 feet deep. Why are your raised beds so deep? So as you can see, I'm here in my backyard garden, and most of the raised beds in the backyard garden here, I think about 8 inches deep. That's about the size of the raised bed kits that I bought. And in my front yard garden that I have, the front of my front yard garden is about waist height. And I did that because it was a design criteria, not because the plants need it. The property is sloped, so I wanted to have the same level of the beds all the way back. So what I did was I started at the back of the lot, and I made all the beds 12 inches deep. And then we took that level and ran it all the way out to the front because the property is sloped. The front beds are taller. Now, this is absolutely not necessary. This is the design element so that when you look at it, it looks nice, clean, and everything's the same exact height and level, and just looks a lot nicer than having everything all different levels. I don't know, and that's the way I like it, so it looks cleaner. So yeah, that's why it's 3 feet deep at the front of the front yard garden that I'm growing, because it's a design element. That's exactly why. Otherwise, I'm cool with 12 inches deep, and you still don't even need 12 inches. I'm growing 8 inches deep here. Everything's doing really well. So the next question is Bertha Miller. John, I need boxes to grow veggies in. We eat and juice so much food, it is costing a small fortune to buy all the organic fruits and veggies. What are the purple boxes that you use to grow food in made of, and where did you purchase them? Cost? Thank you. So Bertha, I started experimenting besides the raised beds here, which are a much better cost, because actually each one of these raised beds, the circular ones I got on clearance for about 10 bucks. And actually the purple boxes that you've seen in past videos were also 10 bucks. And there's pros and cons to each one. I like that this is $10 and it's 4-foot circular, whereas the little purple boxes are about 2 feet by 1 feet. But they're self-watering and they're movable. So, depending on your space. But, what I kind of see is that the little small boxes are kind of good for my everyday salad greens. I planted things close in there so that I could harvest them when they're young for my nightly salads, and I definitely have enough salad greens just in those little purple grow them as boxes. And if I was growing larger and wanted higher quantity of food, I would definitely get some raised beds instead of just some little boxes. I did have some space where I just had some concrete, and I thought, for $10, I thought I'd experiment with them, and they've actually been working really well. And you could just fit a lot more in a larger footprint or larger area. And I always encourage you guys to develop and grow as much area as you can afford to, because you'll have that much more food. So they are made of plastic. I believe they're a recycled plastic. And I got them at Lowe's, and they're on clearance for $10. That being said, Lowe's across the country is probably out of them. Be sure to check my past videos. My past videos are a wealth of knowledge. Over 750 videos now. Over 50,000 subscribers. So thanks to all you guys that make me the largest and most watched gardening channel. Hopefully I'm able to share good information with you so that you can continue to grow more food at home. So yeah, always check my past videos, because if you have a question, search my videos first, because I probably have answered it, because oftentimes I get similar questions over and over again. So other than that, you could probably order them online. The regular price, I got them on clearance for $10. I thought they were a phenomenal deal. Normally they're like $30 to $40 each. In which case, I'd much rather you guys get a raised bed. But for $10, self-watering, especially if you're in an apartment in New York City and you could grow on a patio, they're definitely a good investment. All right, next question is from KRR. Hey John, since you mess with a lot of edibles, it sounds like you know a lot, but I'm sure you don't know everything about every plant you touch. So where do you go for your info? If you don't know what a plant is, can you make some reference suggestions for, like, example, the John Kohler Growing Your Greens Plant Encyclopedia and Identification Guide? It's hard to identify something if you don't have a starting reference point. Any help would be appreciated. Thanks, Kyle. All right, Kyle. So, pretty much I learn about the plants I do by going on wild food walks, with somebody that's experienced. Then I could learn from them, and I could physically see the plant. And then once I learn it, I pretty much don't forget it, or at least I'll know that it's edible. I won't know necessarily the name. And while I do know about a lot of plants, I mainly know about the edible plants. If it's not an edible plant, I have no flipping clue what it is. So don't quiz me on non-edible plants. I probably don't know, but I know a good percentage of edible ones. Another way I learn is by going to nurseries. I love going to nurseries, especially those hole-in-the-wall nurseries, just a home-grown nurseries, not some big box store. And just wandering through the plant collections and finding out and seeing, with my eyes, the different nursery starts, the plant starts, and how they look. And then I could, feel, touch the plants, see how they're growing, see what they look like, and also get to know those varieties. In addition, another thing I like to do is go to garden and flower shows. I always learn about some new, plant at garden and flower shows. It's really cool. Another way I also encourage you guys to learn and grow is by a free method. This is ingenious. Is I like to get seed catalogs, especially seed catalogs that have full color pictures, and I could actually see what the plant looks like, what the fruit's going to look like, and the variety name, especially where there's so many varieties of some of these fruits and vegetables, especially some of the uncommon ones. So I'll have an upcoming episode on my 2013 favorite seed catalogs coming up really soon. Another way that I really like to learn about the plants and research plants is online. Google's your best friend. You could Google and use the Google images to try to find pictures of plants. Another thing I do also is pfaf.org. PFAF is Plants for Future database, where they talk about all the different, or most all, I have found some edible plants that aren't in there, but most all edible plants, that have been on Earth, and that's a really good online, free, cheap, no cost resource to use so that you can, enhance your knowledge about edible food crops. All right, next question is Carol RT. Hello, John. Thanks for all the time and effort you put into your channel. I was wondering if you bother with crop rotation in your raised beds, or because you augment the soil continually, it doesn't matter so much. Thanks, Carol, Prineville, Oregon. All right, Carol. So yes, crop rotation. That's definitely a big subject. So here's the overall picture, right? I always strive to do crop rotation. I always strive to grow something different every season than the last season, even the last 2 seasons. So if I grew tomatoes in one bed, last season, or even the season before, I strive not to grow tomatoes in that bed. Now, it's always best to do crop rotation if you have the room. Like if I had acreage, I would absolutely do crop rotation and actually have a season where, a period of time where I let the grounds go fallow and just planted some cover crops and then would till them under. Unfortunately, in a small backyard situation or, front yard situation where you don't have a lot of square footage, crop rotation can be very difficult and challenging, especially trying to work in the crops that you want to grow instead of just crops you need to grow because it's in the crop rotation. I'm supposed to grow the roots, then the leaves, and then the fruits, and then I gotta start all over again. I gotta grow a cover crop. It's too much to think about. But crop rotation, in my opinion, is especially important if you have some, land you just happen to grow on that has not been improved. As you can see, all my raised beds are filled painstakingly with compost, rock dust, and other soil nutrients to give the soil the most nutrition in there. Plus, in addition, I got the supercharger on. The superchargers, the beneficial microbes, fungi, bacteria, and all these different things in the soil that actually make the nutrients in that soil more bioavailable, or actually poop out, for lack of a better word, more nutrients so your plants can continue to grow. So in that case, while I strive to do crop rotation whenever possible because of the disease factor, not necessarily because of the nutrition factor, I don't necessarily always get to do that. So if you do have some really good, rich soil that's been improved, I personally think crop rotation is not as important as it's made out to be in many standard conventional acreage gardening. So hopefully that answers your question on that. Next question is from My Reflection 75. Hello, John. Thanks for all your time and effort sharing all your information with us. I have two questions for you if you have the time. One, I've noticed that you have shared your seeds with your viewers in a few videos. I would like to purchase seeds from plants that you have grown yourself. Is there a place where you offer seeds, cuttings, or roots for sale? If you could make a video explaining how we can get them from you and a brief summary on what climate will work best for them would be amazing. Two, could you explain the difference between seeds that you get from plants grown in organic compost with trace minerals and the beneficial microbes added versus seeds from plants that are grown commercially? In either case, I do plan on growing in compost that is rich with microbes and minerals. Thank you again, John. Words cannot express the appreciation I have for all your work. All right, well, thank you. So let's see. We'll answer the easiest question first. Let's see. Is there a place that I offer my seeds, cuttings, or roots for sale? Yes, I do offer small amounts of my seeds, cuttings, well, not cuttings yet, but tubers or roots available. And that's on my Facebook page. So you all want to go to my Growing Your Greens Facebook page and, like it. And also you could see the little store I have set up there for like a fun hobby thing to get some of these seeds and rare crops out to you guys. Now, most of the time that store is absolutely sold out because I'll harvest seeds, I'll have it, I'll put them up there, and then they're gone, and then I don't have any more because I'm not just buying seeds and reselling them. No, I'm selling you guys the seeds that I actually grew in high quality soil. And that's not my business, it's not my living. I do that just to get some of these rare exotic seeds out because they are so hard to find. Plus, I need to pay for my gardening habits and my clearance deal runs at Lowe's and Sears and whatnot too. So that takes care of that. And let's see. So that's how you get them. It's go to facebook.com, search Growing Your Greens. Also, I think it's growingyourgreens.ecwid.com is the mobile webpage. And if you don't want to go to Facebook, you could use the mobile website from a regular computer as well and order from there, just to get to the store specifically. See, could you explain the difference between seeds that you get from plants grown in organic compost with trace minerals and the beneficial microbes added versus seeds from plants that are grown commercially? So about the only way I could describe this is by the old adage, you are what you eat. I'd like to kind of change that to you are what you eat and absorb. So we know that if people eat McDonald's and junk food and fast food, right, they're going to be pretty unhealthy. They might be overweight, and their brain might be messed up, and they might go on shooting rampages, and just all kinds of crazy stuff because we're meant to eat a certain kind of food, and our food has gotten so deranged from commercial agriculture and from powers that be and whatnot. So if those people try to produce babies, right, will those babies be overweight? Will those babies have ADHD? Will those babies have allergies? Will those babies maybe come out with birth defects? Or in the worst cases, will those people even be able to have babies? The rate of infertility in today's societies are insane. was there all this infertility when you guys were growing up? No, people would, make love, have babies, and be happy. But nowadays, because of the food system so deranged, and you are what you eat, right? The people are not able to have, like really healthy, vibrant children. So that's, I could definitely say that about people. And now we just want to transfer that whole kind of concept to like plants, right? If you're feeding plants NPK, which are what, commercial growers, for the most part, feed their plants and spray them with pesticides, right? Yeah, you might get seeds that are duds defective, and you might get seeds that have most of the same traits or genes, as the parents. But, what if you fed the plants exactly what they need, organic soil, the trace minerals, the rock dust, and also had the microbes in the soil, because, there's a symbiosis between the roots and the plants and everything going on. So then now they could reproduce successfully, and they'll probably even be stronger genetics, have, better traits, and even have more of the desirable qualities. So, that's the only thing I could really say about that is, I always encourage you guys to purchase organic seeds whenever possible. I mean, I'd rather you guys grow some commercial untreated seeds, right? I don't want you to buy treated seeds. I'd always rather you guys grow untreated commercial seeds than not grow it at all. Like, John, I can't get organic chicory root seeds, so I'm not gonna grow it. No, man. Just get some organic seeds, grow it in, trace minerals, rock dust, compost, and the microbes in your soil, and then save your seeds so that you can start enhancing the genetics that are originally found in those seeds. And this is all my personal opinions about how nature works, because once again, I'm just trying to model nature and do what nature would do, and not just do some artificial diet of NPK and limited amounts of nutrients that conventional farming would do. So hopefully that explains that answer, and you understand it a little bit better. So let's see. Next question is from NJINSPTR. Hey John, I love the show. I was wondering, where do you recommend getting tree collard seeds or plants? I live in New Jersey, Zone 7A. Will they survive here? Chris from NJ. All right, Chris. So yes, tree collards should survive in Zone 7A, and actually just like last episode, actually, believe it or not, I did have an episode where I was offering tree collard seeds, and I do want to say once again, it's best to get tree collards from the cuttings, because the seeds are probably not true to seed, meaning you're not going to get the same exact plant that I'm growing. It's not going to be an identical clone, but it may have some similar traits, and you know what? That's just roulette, and that's just how it goes. Other than that, I'd recommend a place called bountifulgardens.org. They will start offering the cuttings, I believe, in May, and one of these days when I get off my tushy, I might start offering some cuttings to you guys. We'll see how that goes. All right, next question is from Mohawk 1873. If I grow tomato plants from seed in a cluster, will they choke each other out as they mature? Do I have to separate them? So let's see. You do not have to separate them. Will they choke each other out, and will they produce less if you don't? Probably. So I have had tomatoes that self-seeded in my garden and came up in a big patch, and it produced well for me. I was pretty happy with it. And in the wild, in the Everglades, they have the Everglades tomato that just grows wild everywhere. I don't know about everywhere, but it just grows wild. And they're fine on their own. So I always encourage you guys to divide out your plants, because it's gonna be a lot more valuable to divide them out and space them accordingly. Minimum, I do 2 feet spacing onto tomatoes to get the optimal production, and give them enough space to spread their leaves out and their branches out, and not get too close, because then that can cause, if you're not getting good air circulation, a disease and whatnot. And I always encourage you guys to experiment. So I don't know, try it. Try some seeds in a cluster, let them grow without separating, and then also have a section where you actually separate them out and make a video about it and share your results with everybody. One way is a bit harder, one way is easier, and there's pros and cons of doing it each way. But experiment, try to find out, to see what happens. So the next question is from Jameson Knight. Oh, he has a whole bunch of questions here. What is your profession? If you could, would you make YouTube your profession? Would you consider going to school to learn more about perfecting growing your own greens? Would you consider owning livestock? Do you use your manure? Do you urinate and poo for growing any of your crops? Do you upload in 1080p? Love the videos. Keep it up. All right, James, and lots of questions. Number one, what is my profession? Well, I offer the products that Alighted eat more fruits and vegetables. So I sell juicers, blenders, dehydrators. So I'm a small kitchen appliance salesperson, I guess, is what you could call me. If you could, would you make YouTube your profession? I don't know that I'd make it my profession. I do the Growing Your Green show for a hobby, and I just love doing this stuff. And I don't know that I'd want to be like, this is my profession, I have to do it. Because, when you gotta have to do something, you guys probably don't want to do it. Like, I rebel. Like, my mom says, oh, you gotta clean your plate. Oh, yeah, screw you, man. I'm not gonna clean my plate. I'm too full. I'm gonna stop eating, So, yeah, I probably wouldn't want to make YouTube my profession. I like to do it on the fun on the side for fun. What would I like to do as my profession? That's a good question. I'd probably like to have like a farm and grow a lot of rare exotic crops and varieties and offer seeds and plants out to people. I think that's one of my upcoming professions, and I have a lot of ideas about that. Anyways, would you consider going to school to learn more about perfective growing your own greens? So, I don't know if I'd go to a traditional school where I go to college and go back to class and all this stuff. I mean, I don't know if, number one, I have the patience for it. Number two, I don't know that I'd probably learn something, which would probably be good, but the time invested would not be a benefit to me, in my opinion. I love what I'm doing now. I've learned so much by just gardening and growing on my own, and, I'm a pretty good gardener overall. I know a little bit, but I'm always improving what I'm learning, and what I'm growing. So I'll go to different classes at different, people give talks, and I learn from them, and then I could use that in my garden, and I could also share that information with you. I also do a lot of research and learning about things online, behind the scenes all the time to improve my garden, but also to help you guys improve your gardens out there. So I probably would not go back to a traditional school to perfect growing my own greens. I'm not going to say I'm perfect by any means, but I do a pretty darn good job now. Would you consider owning livestock? So I guess it depends on the definition of livestock. So if I substitute, would you consider owning animals? Absolutely. So I have had ducks in the past, and ducks are amazing creatures. One of the best things I ever did was to keep some ducks. They love to eat my snails and slugs, and actually one of the little ones would actually follow me around like I was the mom, and I would pick up little pots, black nursery pots with slugs on the bottom, and they were like black slugs on the bottom, and the duck would just see it and just poof and eat it, and then it would like wag its little tail. It was like so cool. So yes, I would absolutely have some animals, and they would be my pets. The animals that I had on my farm would be my pets, and I would treat them well and ensure they have a happy, healthy life. And I'd be able to utilize them in the way it would be best for me, and also let them have a great life at the same time. So the ducks would benefit me by eating the snails and slugs, so I don't have to deal with them and feed them. They love that stuff, and then I would get to use their duck manure. So the next question is, do you use manure? So I do use a limited amounts of compost manure in my gardens, although I prefer to use more vegetative food scraps composted down. Let's see, do you urinate and poo for growing any of your crops? So I guess he means, do I urinate and poo on my crops? So I don't poo on my crops. I have tested the waters with human manure, and one of these days I'll have a good video on that for you guys, but that's definitely a long time in the making. I'm not at that point yet. But I do often urinate on my crops, Don't waste your urine, guys. You guys and girls, you guys pee in the toilet and flush it down with, 1.2 gallons of water if you have a water-saving toilet. And if you don't, it's 3 gallons of water. You're using clean water to flush perfectly good nitrogen-based fertilizers down the toilet and send it away. I mean, if you go to a big box store and try to buy some nitrogen fertilizer, man, that shit's expensive. So what I do is I just like to come out on my plants and take a leak at the bases. Generally, it's mostly on fruit and crops, but I do it on some trees and whatnot because, urine is a terrible thing to waste. Seriously. Okay, let's see. Do you upload in 1080p? Absolutely not. So I have a small flip cam that I'm filming on right now, and if the file sizes were in 1080p, they'd be significantly larger, take a lot more computing time to process, render, and save. In addition, they take significantly longer to upload my videos, which I'm not willing to do at this point because I just do this once again as a hobby. All right, man, that was a long question list there. Next question is from Aaron J. Hi, John. I thoroughly enjoy your channel, the best gardening channel in my opinion. Keep up the great work. I was finally able to locate and purchase some glacial rock dust at a local garden center. Have you ever applied the rock dust via a water solution in order to water the rock dust into the soil and onto the plant foliage? If so, what ratio of rock dust would be appropriate per gallon of water for use on the vegetable plants as well as fruit trees and shrubs? Thanks. All right, Aaron. In general, I just mix my rock dust in with my plants. On occasion, I have mixed the rock dust in with water and then watered the plants, but I've never foil or fed the rock dust. A better product, in my opinion, to do that if you want to get the minerals into the plants would be the C90 product. And that basically you just dilute that in water and then you could spray that into the ground and into the plants. To me, the rock dust is better actually put in the ground, mixed in with the soil, than sprayed in on top. I think it's definitely a synergistic effect if you could mix in the rock dust into your soil and then actually spray the C90s, on top of the soil and then actually foil or feed that one. So that's what I'd recommend to you. Next question is from Shane Waldrop. John, I want to go completely home garden, but I need help. I have a nice start, but not sure what to plant and arrange them. Help. All right, Shane. So let's see. The number one, you want to get a book called Square Foot Gardening by Mel Bartholomew, and that method will teach you how close to plant the plants that you're growing. The next thing is you need to figure out what you want to plant. So the easiest way to do that is to plant things that you like to eat and plant things that are easy to grow. So, that's what I recommend by starting, getting the Square Foot Gardening book and follow the methods in there and just get some seeds or some starter plants, which are a lot easier in my opinion than starting the seeds, and just start growing for it. Yeah, I like that. Growing for it. And just see what happens. And you might have a few, trials and tribulations, but that's all right. Pile through them and keep on growing is what I like to say. All right, down to the next question. Justin Hemmecker. Hey, John, thanks for the great channel and sharing your knowledge. You've inspired me and given me the confidence that I can grow healthy food for my wife and myself. I eat a lot of oranges and use a lot of limes for guacamole and margaritas. Are chopped up citrus peels okay for composting, or will it be detrimental to the mix? Thanks, Justin. All right, Justin, this is a big question, actually. Back in the traditional day, they always says, don't add citrus to your compost pile. And what I have to say to that is hogwash, Forget about all that stuff you've ever heard. I composted literally 50% citrus, and actually my composter sitting over there, and I'll have an upcoming episode on that showing you my brand new cool tumbling composter and loading it up with like at least 50% of citrus and 50% other food scraps and a good carbon source. And, so I'd say, yeah, go for standard, heat-based composting of your oranges and citrus. And if you're going to do it, it's best to, chop them up. But even in this composter I've had, that citrus stuff breaks down really fast, especially a lot faster than some of the other things that I added in there. Now, I think where this maybe rumor started that you can't compost citrus is, if you do have a worm composting bin, you do not want to feed, a large portion of citrus peels to your worms. They just don't like eating them, so use that in a standard compost pile. And, if you want to feed a little bit to your worms, it's cool, but they might not eat it. It might just end up rotting in there, which might get nasty. All right, I think we're down to the last question here. Dos uno. That means like 2-1. Hi, I'm in the beginning stages of building a raised bed garden, and I was wondering what were your thoughts and expertise. Is pine wood good to use? So, it depends on your situation. Pine wood is one of the most inexpensive woods to use, and if you're renting and you don't expect to be in a place long and you don't want to spend a lot of money, pine wood would be great to use. Another thing, you do want to make sure you coat it with a good natural coating that's going to seal it and protect it from rotting faster, because pine definitely can rot quicker than other kinds of woods. I'd much rather you guys spend a little bit more, maybe get some cedar or redwood, which is going to last, significantly longer. I have my cedar fence boards that I used in my garden. I just dug out one of the beds to inspect it because I was actually harvesting my Jerusalem artichokes. And even after 3 years now, I don't see any signs of rot. So, and I coated it and treated it and all that stuff with natural stuff. So, that's what I'd recommend you. But I have other videos where I show, a renter that just use pine wood because it's really cheap and inexpensive. So it just depends on your budget and your goals and, what you want to do. I have used that in the past, and it lasted many years before it did start to rot. And, depending on what your goals are, you could absolutely use it. And I'd much rather use the pine wood than a treated, pressure treated wood, as I mentioned earlier in this video. Well, I think that's pretty much the end of this question and answer session. I'll have another one with all the questions on the back of this page. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep on growing.